Introduce today's witnesses. The Honorable Cord Byrd. Mr. Byrd is the Secretary of State for the state of Florida. He previously served in the Florida House of Representatives, where he was a member of the Public Integrity and Elections Committee, including a term as Vice Chairman of the committee. Mr. Byrd also chaired the State Redistricting Committee and served as Vice Chair of the Judiciary Committee. Ms. Rosemary Jenks. Ms. Jenks is co-founder and policy director of the Immigration Accountability Project, a nonprofit organization that works to advocate and educate the public on questions of immigration policy. She has worked on immigration policy in a variety of organizations for more than 30 years. Cleta Mitchell. Ms. Mitchell is a senior legal fellow at the Conservative Partnership Institute and the founder of the Election Integrity Network. She has worked in private practice for many years, counseling clients on campaign finance and election law matters. Ms. Andrea Centeno. Ms. Centeno is the Regional Counsel of MALDEF's Washington, D.C. office, where she oversees the organization's legislative and regulatory work and litigation activity. Previously, she served as a legislative staff attorney at MALDEF, working on immigration and voting issues. We will begin by swearing you in. Would you please rise and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God? Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative, and they've been seated. Please know that your written testimony will be entered in the record in its entirety. Accordingly, we ask that you summarize your testimony and limit it to 5 minutes. Now, I'm going to advise you all that votes are being called imminently on the floor of the House. They have been called. When were they called? All right, we're going to proceed, and we'll make a decision on whether we go through some of you or all of you, depending on the vote time, but I'd like to move forward a little bit. So, Secretary Byrd, if you don't mind starting, you have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chairman Roy, Ranking Member Scanlon, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. In 2004, the bipartisan Baker-Carter report, prepared by President Jimmy Carter and Chief of Staff to President Reagan, James Baker, stated that, quote, fraud in any degree and in any circumstance is subversive to the electoral process, and that the best way to maintain ballot integrity is to investigate all credible allegations of election fraud and otherwise prevent fraud before it can affect an election. Voter fraud includes voting by non-citizens in federal elections. Every illegitimate vote of a non-citizen negates the legitimate vote of a citizen. Nationally, preventing non-citizens from registering to vote and voting is the #1 priority of states committed to election integrity. To put the issue in context, Florida has approximately 13.5 million active registered voter, and that number changes every minute of every day. According to USCIS services, 94,100 Floridians became naturalized U.S. citizens in 2023 alone. That is a large number, but in elections, small numbers matter. As a reminder, in 2000, only 537 votes in Florida determined the outcome of the presidential race. Miami-Dade County alone, Florida's largest county, has over 715 precincts. A single illegal non-citizen vote at each precinct can change the outcome of our presidential election. The NVRA of 1993 introduced national procedures for voter registration. It mandates that any person who applies for a driver's license may, if eligible, submit a voter registration application for federal elections to determine whether the person is registered to vote and to confirm whether the person is, in fact, a U.S. citizen using the SAVE database. Once the investigation is complete and if the department determines that the person is a registered, is not a non-citizen, due process is afforded and the non-citizen is prohibited from voting. Florida is committed to ensuring that all eligible Floridians can vote. However, we are equally committed to preventing election fraud and protecting the integrity of Florida's voter rolls. Despite conducting a fair and honest election in 2020, Florida did not rest on its laurels. In 2022, for example, Governor DeSantis signed a law creating the Office of Election Crimes and Security. This is not a fake or contrived issue. In Florida, we are prosecuting and convicting non-citizens who are attempting to fraudulently influence our elections. Florida law states that a person may become a registered voter only if that person is a U.S. citizen. And in 2020, Floridians amended the state constitution to make clear that only a citizen of the United States shall be eligible to vote, and that amendment passed with more than 80% of the vote. Floridians have changed our state's constitution, we have strengthened our laws, we have engaged in litigation, and we have an office dedicated to investigating election crimes. The only impediment to doing more is the federal government. That's why states need action from our congressional leaders so we can fulfill our constitutional duties under the law. In conclusion, I leave you with the words of Mark Twain, who said, "Citizenship is what makes a republic." I implore you to work with the states to ensure that our republic remains strong by only allowing American citizens to vote in American elections. Thank you.
Secretary Byrd, thank you very much for that. Ms. Jenks.
Chairman Roy, Ranking Member Scanlon, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for holding this hearing. I'm Rosemary Jenks, co-founder and policy director of the Immigration Accountability Project, IAP. As the name implies, we focus exclusively on immigration policy and how it impacts America, including our elections. IAP is also a founding member of the Only Citizens Vote Coalition. As you know, the Immigration and Nationality Act makes an alien who falsely claims U.S. citizenship, for example by registering to vote, or who illegally votes, inadmissible to the United States and deportable from the United States. 18 U.S.C. 611 also makes it a federal crime for a non-citizen to vote in a federal election. Based on data from the Census Bureau and the Department of Homeland Security, we estimate that there are currently around 30 million non-citizens residing in the United States. The open borders policies of the Biden-Harris administration have added at least 7.5 million of these non-citizens on top of regular legal immigration in just the last almost 4 years. Obviously, this massive population of non-citizens would have no impact whatsoever on our elections if they were securely prevented from voting. However, the requirements of the 1993 Voter Registration Act, or Motor Voter Law, and the 2002 Help America Vote Act make it virtually impossible to prevent non-citizens from registering to vote either accidentally or intentionally. Neither a driver's license nor a social security number provides proof of U.S. citizenship. All 50 states and the District of Columbia issue driver's licenses, including real IDs, to lawfully present non-citizens, while 19 states also issue driver's licenses to illegal aliens. Moreover, every alien who is authorized to work in the United States is eligible for an SSN. The Biden-Harris administration has been handing out work authorization documents like candy to inadmissible aliens, with SSN issuances following close behind. So we have federal voter laws that do not require proof of citizenship to register to vote, combined with a massive population of non-citizens with valid driver's licenses and SSNs. When you add to that President Biden's unprecedented Executive Order 14019, along with the huge network of NGOs receiving billions of dollars in federal, state, and local funding to provide services to the millions of illegal aliens being released into our country by the Biden-Harris administration, you have a recipe for fraud. There are strong indications that some of these NGOs are providing the aliens with voter registration forms. For example, the contract New York City signed with an NGO called Homes for the Homeless to provide migrant housing includes a requirement that the NGO, quote, provide and distribute voter registration forms to all persons, end quote. Imagine you're a new arrival to the United States with limited English proficiency. If a government official, whether at the DMV or some other agency, or an NGO paid by the government to take care of you, hands you a form and says, just check this box and sign your name, you're probably going to comply. And as soon as you do, you are guilty of a deportable criminal offense. You have essentially been entrapped into a criminal act by a government agency or NGO acting either with indifference or with nefarious purpose. Do we at IAP believe that millions of non-citizens are going to show up at polling locations to vote in November? No, but some surely will. The problem is that once a non-citizen's name is on the voter roll, that name can be attached to a ballot and voted. In states that automatically mail ballots to registered voters, a ballot will be mailed to whatever address the non-citizen provided, whether it's the address of a migrant shelter, a hotel, a homeless shelter, or a residence. What will happen to that ballot and others like it? Will it be harvested, filled out, placed in a drop box? Opponents of requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote, including every Democrat on this subcommittee, dismiss those who support it by saying it is already illegal for non-citizens to vote. But they know non-citizens, including illegal aliens, do register and vote. Otherwise, why would H.R. 16, the amnesty bill that all the Democrats on this subcommittee have co-sponsored, explicitly allow DHS to waive illegal voting for amnesty applicants? Why would H.R. 3194, an amnesty bill that 3 of the Democrats on this subcommittee have co-sponsored and the Biden-Harris administration wrote, automatically waive both illegal voting and false claims to citizenship? Why is it okay if even one American citizen's vote is canceled by an illegal vote? What if it's your vote? It's time to pass the SAVE Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jenks. Ms. Mitchell. Ms. Mitchell, can you hit your microphone?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Ranking member and members of the subcommittee. I'm Cleta Mitchell, Senior Legal Fellow at the Conservative Partnership Institute. There are several reasons why the SAVE Act is absolutely necessary. Safeguarding American voter eligibility is and does exactly what the title says. It safeguards American voter eligibility, and it's desperately needed to secure the 2024 elections. The SAVE Act will reverse a decision of the United States Supreme Court from 2013 in which the court ruled that only Congress can direct and decide the content of the federal voter registration form to require proof of U.S. citizenship in order to register and vote in U.S. elections. Quite simply, the SAVE Act would do what the Supreme Court determined in 2013 that only Congress can do, which is to safeguard eligibility for voting in federal elections by requiring documentary proof of citizenship to register to vote. With the borders opened on January 21, 2021 by the Biden-Harris administration and illegals pouring across our borders by the millions and being taken who knows where in our country, the SAVE Act has become absolutely vital to protecting our elections from illegal voting by non-citizens. Not only will the SAVE Act require documentary proof of citizenship to register to vote, but it also contains other components that are vital for the 2024 elections. It requires that states compare their existing voter lists to citizenship data to identify and remove non-citizens who are already registered. It establishes a new criminal penalty for those who knowingly register non-citizens to vote. It requires federal agencies to make available to the states at no cost citizenship data in order that state and local election offices can, in fact, confirm citizenship of persons registered or seeking to register. And one important aspect of the SAVE Act would be to ensure that the 22 states who allow same-day registration, meaning that a person can register and immediately be allowed to vote, will not be eligible to vote until having provided proof of citizenship. This requirement alone will interrupt one of the biggest threats to the integrity of the 2024 election, the organized roundup by political advocacy groups of scores of illegals to register and vote them on the same day before anyone can determine if those individuals were eligible to vote in the election. Democrats oppose the SAVE Act ostensibly because it is already illegal for non-citizens to vote in a federal election. Yes, it is. And it is also illegal for millions of people to swarm across our borders without documentation, but nonetheless, this administration, under border czar Kamala Harris, has adopted just such a policy of opening the door and letting anyone and everyone into our country illegally, already against the law. If the Democrats sincerely want to keep non-citizens from voting, then let me ask you, where are the enforcement actions from the Department of Justice? Where are the memos to U.S. attorneys across the nation warning about potential violations of the prohibitions on non-citizen voting? Where is the FBI hotline to report suspicious registrations of illegals? When is the Merrick Garland press conference announcing that it's illegal for non-citizens to register and vote in the election and violators will be apprehended, prosecuted, and deported? Did I miss that public education campaign? I must have, because it doesn't exist. The Democrats' plan for 2024 is to change the electorate. If they cannot persuade the American people to want their Marxist policies for America, just import voters who don't speak the language, don't have a shared commitment to our country and our national principles, get them into the very porous voter registration system and collect their votes. Just Facts researcher James Agresti published a report that a conservative estimate is that there will be, based on his past experience, between 1 and nearly 3 million non-citizens who will vote in the 2024 election. Democrat-controlled cities like San Francisco, New York, and Washington, D.C. have granted voting rights to non-citizens. Leftist groups have fought the citizenship question on the 2020 census. Every Democrat in Congress voted against putting the citizenship question back on the census. Every Democrat in Congress also voted no to apportioning U.S. House seats based on citizenship instead of population. Why? Because California would have lost 4 U.S. House seats in 2010 and 3 more in 2020 if only citizenships If only citizens had been counted for apportionment of the U.S. House. That's not only U.S. House seats, that's 7 electoral votes for the Democrats. It's why Democrats voted no on reversing the decision of the District of Columbia to allow non-citizens to vote. For Democrats, non-citizens are their future political base. Please do the right thing. Pass the SAVE Act. Save our elections. Save our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. And as much as I hate to do this because it's going to cut off Ms. Centeno, I think we need to get over to the floor and vote. So I'm going to apologize profusely, but you get more time to prepare, and we look forward to hearing your testimony. So we will stand in recess while we go to the floor. Thank you all very much.